Hey, I'm back. So welcome to part 2 of this video. I started recording and it cut off at like 7 minutes in. You guys, there's so many videos that I don't post because I get cut off, or I start talking and I turn into brain mush because of all the energies that are coming in. And so I just wanted to kind of continue this from the last video. My friend Kat made a really valid point. She's like, Carrie, I really wanted to watch your video, but it was like 2 hours. It's like, I know, you're right. So this one's for you, Kat. And anybody else that's kind of in a limited time frame, or, you know, I get it. It's hard to commit to a really long video. Sometimes I'm in flow and I just keep going. I could flow all day long sometimes. So I'm going to try to keep this one short and sweet. And so welcome if you haven't seen these videos before. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. And the last video I talked a little bit about the golden rule. And the message that my guides were essentially saying is, you're in the golden age. We're in the golden age. Follow the golden rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would have done to you, basically. But it is more than that. It is the golden frequency, the golden harmonics. It is a vibration. And when we fall into that golden spiral, the golden means, we're in this coherence of gratitude. It allows us to not only express ourselves and speak our truth from our truth, not our truth of what we think is true, but really what is beyond and what we're tapping into. So we're having so many activations and so many opportunities. And I don't remember if I said this in the last video or the one that got deleted, but we're being gifted these things, and we're in these bubbles, and we keep getting more expansive and more expansive and more expansive. And the question that comes through is, when is this going to stop? And when I get asked sometimes in session work, well, I didn't sign up for this. And what I usually ask is, well, then who did? So if you didn't sign up for this, then who signed up for this? And if you aren't the real person that signed up for it, then you can clear whoever the untruth, the mistruth of who did sign up for it. Change that contract, clear that frequency, integrate that shadow, integrate that emotion, and take our sovereignty back. And so that's been coming through a lot, is all of this information. Sit down a little bit. About sovereignty. You know, are we in our sovereignty? And so I'm going to go into a little bit of flow about that. So the biggest message is staying out of judgment of ourselves as well as others. And because there's a lot of communication that's coming through in the form of, it can be in so much. I talked a little bit about this in what are activations, what is light language. It's all a form of communication. It's all a form of, and the universe is constantly communicating with us. We're in this plasma frequency. We're in this, if you look at the air and you actually sit outside and look at the space when you're in the sun, or I love it when there's a little bit of clouds, you can see the plasma that we're surrounded by, that we're sitting in this moment. So what are we creating in our field? And are we aware of what we're creating in our field? And so if we recognize that this isn't what I want to create, great. The first step is in recognizing that, and then forgiving ourselves and coming into a space of gratitude and honoring where we are at in this process, because we're all going through different phases of development, right? And we're all going through this together in different placements. So, and as we come together in this unification of frequencies and energies, we allow ourselves to transmit, to transmute, to transmit through the cable lines, through the lines of network and the communication that further, I'm hearing furthermore, Evermore lights up the grids. I'm seeing reference to ravens and crows, which are magic and shape-shifting. I'm seeing reference to the shine. So I had a lot of flow the other day about some dark things, and I was laughing with a friend of mine about this, Miss Candace, and I said, I'm getting all these references to, I wonder if that's still uploading. Okay, see, I'm all over the place. This what happens sometimes, guys. But I was getting this reference to these crows, and when crows fly in a big group, it's called a murder. And I always say, oh, the gang's back, because they harass all the other birds and they try to steal eggs, but they work together. And they're actually beautiful, beautiful birds. And they're excellent communicators. Just because we don't understand what they are saying does not mean that that is any less of a form of communication than the English language. So a big message that's been coming through for me is that our communication has been completely bamboozled. And we're in this process of taking that back, but also expanding it out into other forms of communication. And this is telepathy, it is claircognizant, clairaudient, like hearing certain frequencies, even sound frequencies, thinking of the whales and how they communicate with sonar and these, these sounds, or the dolphins. We are tapping into that essentially in our own way. So the other thing that came through for me was when I said the crow murder, I thought of backwards. Everything to me has been, Carrie, take it and reverse it. Take it and reverse it. Because a lot of what's happened is we've been working from an inverted matrix. And I had this reference to maverick and goose, and the word that was coming through was flip it and reverse it. And it was like, okay, we're inverted in this goose, and I'm getting this reference as a goose neck, and I look at the shape of a goose. It reminds me of a portal. It reminds me of what we're coming up on as a cornucopia, Thanksgiving. So if we're in the portal of the heart, we come into this cornucopia of abundance, and it essentially squirts, pushes through this wormhole or black hole in coherence or implosion. So a lot of plays on words here. So back to the crow and the murder, I think of red rum, right? Backwards, right? Red rum. I think that's murder backwards. Anyways, that's what I hear. Whether it is or not doesn't matter, because this is how my guidance team communicates with me. That doesn't mean that anybody else has to get it. And that's another thing, is it's our journey, guys. It's about us creating bliss for ourselves, because then we're able to lead by example and follow the golden rule, which starts here. It starts with us. We are the apple of our eye, right? We have to have the heart here so that we are not poisoning this apple, right? We are the Snow White. Anyways, so this red rum takes me into the shining. And I've talked a little bit about this. It is synchronistic, that all of this stuff has been coming out that's shadow, yet if you flip it and reverse it, it's actually pretty awesome. So we're gonna explore that briefly, because this is really fun for me. So I see the shadow as it's a reflection, right? So if I see, let's say, for example, The Shining, I think of it's scary and all of this, but it also signifies what's going on with the sacral chakra right now. The orange colors that are coming through, this peachy orange ray of light that we are all accessing right now, which has a vibration, a tone, a code, a signature frequency. Okay, I also see this as a reference to the shine. We've got the shine. We are the shining ones, the golden ones. We are the chosen ones. We chose, back to sovereignty, to experience this. We chose to come here during this time to be a part of this movement, of this wave, of this particle exchange of frequency in a wave formation, particles into waves as waves, one in the same, one in unison, one in some with the sun, in our frequency, transmitting rays of hope, rays of frequency exchange and activation within these portals, foretelling our future and our exchanges in alignment with one another, in recognition, in recognizing this information together through this neural network in capacity. I'm seeing the caps lock as being on. So when the caps lock is on, we know sometimes we go to put in our password and we're not able to get our password in because we're spelling it the same way, but we gotta take it down a notch, or we gotta change it up a little bit. It might be the same letters, it might be the same words, but they have a different frequency because the caps lock is on, right? It means something different. It doesn't fit to scale because our scale has been so expanded and everything is so high frequency right now that all of the old stuff is being disbanded and disbandwidth. We are not in bandwidths with the bandits. I am seeing a reference though, flip it and reverse it again. So if I take it and I think of the bandits, I think of a raccoon. I think of a fox. A raccoon has a fox face. I think of a mask. The mask is being removed and the fox is being revealed. Our fox P2 genes, hello throat chakra, hello fox genes, our primordial frequencies and creations are being connected and tied, braided into, in conjunction with one another. And when I see one, I see Obi-Wan Kenobi. I see this can of worms being opened. I see the Jedi, right? I see all of this, which is coherence, which is implosion, which is the golden frequency, the golden age, the golden ones, one sum, all in one with the sun, right? A lot of the stuff that I've written in this play formation is essentially molding in Play-Doh, playing with the frequency of clay in clay animation, bringing all of this to animation, to life, right? In my own activity V, in my own vector space, right? I am renewing that. I'm bringing these characters, these caricatures, the words, the letters, the numbers to life, to frequencies, thinking of that carrot. Candace, you'll know what I'm referring to. So as we stick it, as we land, as we hold and anchor these frequencies, we are able to communicate with our highest aspect in all ways that we have always been connected to, that we felt we were unable to connect with before because we felt that the band had been shut down, like we had been shut off, but that has been disbanded. All of that stuff that was usurped, we are braiding into a different frequency now. So we are still digesting, we are still utilizing the shadow, we are still using these frequencies from lower platforms to essentially jump or streamline into this next platform. And we're already there, we're already creating. I see my stage with all my animated characters coming to life now in this arena. Now, if I go back to where this all began in this flow with the crow, the crow and the flow, the murder, the red rum, the shining frequency, I'm seeing all of this sparkle in all of us is lighting up the grids, is essentially allowing us to twinkle, right? Twinkle as stars, as the star seeds that we are here to express in formation with one another from here, but also with our heads, our crown is being activated. So going back to the crows, I think of the birds, I think of Alfred Hitchcock, I think of moving into the movies that are out right now. So I see synchronicity in The Shining. It's not a coincidence that the Shining second story or the second Shining is out. This is the next run, this is a different movie. Yes, we still are holding patterns from those past movies, but we're changing it. And now it's a different storyline. And we're tapping into what we've utilized before. In addition to that, backwards, murder of crows is red rum. And we are communicating through this inverted matrix. We've now flipped it and reversed it. We can still utilize that framework at our own disposal. at our own disposal. And I'm hearing garbage disposal. Like all that stuff is being flushed out, right? And it's being reworked. Also, what I'm seeing is, for example, It, right? You guys, how many times are they going to redo the movie It? It, the next chapter. The Shining, the next chapter. Thank you, Stephen King, for tapping into that shadow aspect so well, but able to pull through. We're still squeezing out from that particular story the goodness, the shadow that we can digest, okay? He was a wonderful writer. I don't watch his movies anymore because they are a little bit dark. I've already read all of his books. They're fabulous from that shadow aspect and how he brings these characters to life. Who were we choosing to animate? Who are we choosing to feed back into? I choose not to feed back into that anymore. Been there, done that. And it was helpful to me to digest and get me to where I'm at now. Now, It, I can flip it and reverse it to tie, T-I, tying it together. I see it as a cross. I see it as I. I also see it as tying in with a different time. I also see it as the clown chakra, from shadow to light, in laughter versus fear. So everything that we're in, when we're in flow, when we're in a synchronistic, opportunistic, meaning seeing an opportunity in everything, to unwrap a gift in a different way that's got a different sparkle to it than it did before. Now I see all of this from a laughter perspective, whereas even 3 or 4 years ago, I couldn't even watch when something like this came on TV. It would freak me out. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so hilarious. This is so funny because of my perspective and where I'm at now. And I can utilize all of these things for information. And this ties back into the message I was sharing either at the beginning of this video or at the end of the last video, how our communication is changing. Our plasma field that is around us through the television, we could call it source. Everything is source. Everything is alive to a certain extent, right? So it's all birthed from somewhere, whether it was made by a human, made by a machine. Where did all of this come out of, right? What's that? There's a thing, I don't know if it's a Buddhist or a, when you're trying to meditate and they ask, what does it sound like to have one hand clapping, right? What does one hand clapping sound like? It's kind of like that. Everything comes out of this void. Therefore, everything is part of this void, right? So how are we going to utilize all this information that's being offered to us? So not locking ourselves down into an inversion. So if you go into an inversion table, they keep telling me take the table, flip it, and reverse it. If I hang upside down, I see everything from a different perspective. Also, the blood goes to my head and is able to then send blood to my brain. Whereas before, I wasn't able to maybe get there. It stretches me out, it elongates things. It creates more space in the spine, which then creates this whole expansion in the neurons or in the circulatory system, or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm playing with this, you guys, just to share with you how cool it is when we start playing with what's being offered in our fields. And so when we see it from a place of non-fear, non-judgment, non-duality, really, and we see it and say, okay, that is an aspect where that's being offered to me, from me. How can I utilize this? It's pulling the juice from it. It's pulling the nutrients from it. And that keeps us in a place of 0 point as an observer, as the field. So now we're operating as the field, of the field, with the field. And it becomes a whole new playing field. And we essentially we recognize that we're one with this fascia. If you look at the fascia in the body and you visualize that all around us, we're lighting it up, and the fascia carries that information faster than light. It's there. It's already there. I had this thought the other day, and a lot of this information, you guys, can come while we're walking. It can come while we're driving. It can come while we're in the shower or taking a bath or going for a swim. not limiting us to just getting this information or download while we're sleeping or meditating. That was something that came up in conversation. I had a session with, quite a few sessions that I've had when I work with certain light workers. Some are already meditating and they've been doing it for years. Some have never meditated and some can't stand meditation. Everybody has been different. So I will work with that individual on whatever space that I will meet them where they're at and try to help them utilize what they find, what they are, just help them to utilize this flow in their own unique, dynamic way. The reason I'm sharing this is one of the light workers I was working with said, well, I don't think I'm meditating right. And my response was, there is no right way to meditate. Yes, if you are a Buddhist or a monk, or you go to a particular place and that's how they teach meditation, they have a rule. Or let's say you're in India, maybe they say, yes, this is the way you meditate. But from my perspective, and from the way that my own style, how I teach, that isn't how I work. I don't operate with one thing. I'm a jack of all trade. I keep hearing the word juniper berries. I'll have to try to come back to that. Either way, I'm going to end on this note so that I'm not going too far into this video and making it too long of a video. But I hope that is what I've shared with you. You guys, this isn't just words. It's activating, it's frequencies, it's in flow. I'm playing with my environment and the field around me through visual, through words, and streaming this through from my higher, my supra, my conductivity, my consciousness, to bring it through in writing, in drawing, in song, in toning, in words, in conversation, in meditation. And all of us are doing this in our own way. And the more we can realize that, the less judgment we place on ourselves and others around us, the less constriction we feel in our hearts, and the more expansion we feel about the world around us, and the more love and golden frequency we are then able to connect into. Through this golden frequency of alchemy, it is the rainbow. I see this golden white light. I see it like a golden white color. It's luminous and it incorporates and alchemizes the rainbow in this soup, and it creates this pot of gold. And I just see the rainbow going into this pot of gold. And in this, it's creating a value system for us. It's creating a value, and we're able to value ourselves and others and our gifts that are being gifted to us, opportunities to raise our frequency, raise our potential to connect and tap into these higher ports of frequency, portals, portelling, portales, stories. I mean, I could go on and on. It's abundant and it is infinite. Whew. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. In love and light. Have a beautiful everything. Namaste.